Good afternoon. Today we're asking, have you got too many eggs in one basket? And basically, what do you do when you depend on one or two key customers? I'm with Graham Potts today, who's our Managing Director at Wessex Commercial. Graham's a chartered accountant, but his background is in industry and he's had his own businesses. So he's a really good person to talk through these issues with. If you've got any questions as we go through today, pop them in the comments on LinkedIn Live and we'll pick them up as we go through. So Graham, what are we covering today?
Yeah, hi Linda, how are everyone? Basically three things. Start off with the risk of, mainly the risk of depending on one or two key customers, how to address these risks, and then we will also mention the benefits of having a key customer.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with those benefits, Graham. What are those of having key customers in your business?
Well, the main one, especially if they're a big company, like sort of got a big brand or well-known, not big, but well-known, then it's the kudos, it's growing your reputation. If you work for someone, you'd see that where people put it on their website, I work for so-and-so, so-and-so, or whatever. Obviously, it's also like if it's a large customer, it can drive revenue. Hopefully that's driving profits and cash and enabling investment in people, technology, etc. It's giving you a great start. Yeah.
So easy to see those benefits, but let's focus on the risks or think about the risks of depending on too few of those key customers. What kind of things have you seen in your experience, Graham?
Well, to start with, like I said, when businesses are small and they're starting up, being on a key customer is great because you're looking for growth. As you go through the journey, you start to think about risk. And if you've got one key customer, I know businesses that have got one key customer that takes up 80–90% of their business and they turn over, say, like $1 million. And that's where you're getting risk. What happens if they suddenly, basically decide not to work with you, not to use your services or products? So it's basically the big issue is the vulnerability to changes in their needs or priorities, and they might, want price cuts, change of supplier, etc. And if you get dependent on that key customer, not only is there a problem for the fact that they stop, finding work, it's actually, you've got probably a big overhead now to to try and have income to fulfill.
Yeah.
The other thing is that as this customer gets a larger percentage of your turnover, your negotiation power dwindles. You get worried that you go elsewhere. You might, if it's in contractual situations, you might get disputes, which can delay the cash as well, and take up a lot of management time. It can be that you're limited on too many service offerings, that you haven't got time for innovation, because you're so focused on that customer, whereas the market could be a different market, etc. So it's really around the financial stability, the loss of sales, the cash that could seriously impact the business.
Yeah. And I mean, just have you seen, what, or perhaps you can share with us how that's played out in, real life, Graham?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example that we took on when one of my companies took on a contract that was meant to be. We knew it was a reasonable risk, but at the time we were very high profile in a certain area, and the value at that time was 20%. So it was actually under 20%. So we thought that's fine, and it was a big customer, and it was because it was more the customer's customer, because that was very high profile. What happened? That 6-month contract ended up being 3 years, and it ended up pushing. The problem is it took up, although it had probably of the revenue time, I think it was the percentage of revenue to the rest of the revenue was about 15%, but the management time was 40 to 50% because we got tied up in knots. Now, we took the contract because we thought it was 6 months, but because of problems on site and because of problems you're changing different people within the customer, and then their customer, what was happening? You were going through so many things, so many different times. It basically stopped us investing in the rest of the business. And in the end, it was one of the primary causes that we had to close that business down.
I think we've seen it in the past, where, yeah, you're right. The amount of management time it sucks in. It feels worth it when you're setting those big contracts up, but when that time is disproportionate to the benefit over the longer term, well, yeah, you question the value, don't you?
You do question the value, and also there's no offense. I'm not saying every big customer is like this, but the bigger the customer, there's a lot where I know, especially in contracting, in the construction industry, sorry, where QSs are paid, quantity surveyors are paid not to try and find holes in the contract and find holes in your delivery, and they get bonused on it.
Yeah.
So the idea is to actually not pay you hardly anything, if anything. And to be honest, some of these are quite happy for you to go bust, which is horrible. I know. And I'm not going to say who or whatever, but I've heard it so many times with people that's actually been in those companies that I've talked to.
Yeah. I mean, construction is an interesting one, because there was a practice of late paying, and sort of deliberately slowing things down, which, hurt small businesses, and there've been some, regulatory changes to try to address that. But even, if we think about it from a process point of view, all it takes in a small business is to get the billing wrong with a big client, and you could have some serious cash flow issues.
You can, whether it's, the contract is like getting the paperwork right for the contract. It's like, is there a sign off procedure? Where's the invoices got to go? What proof do you need with the invoices? And then what happens when you get variations, if you add something else, so there's so many different things that, and the big companies they're just like a process machine. You've just got to get everything right. And you've got to realize that also that you can't, small businesses generally want to please. We all want to please. And so what happens, we do things without the right paperwork, maybe on a verbal, say so, or, I'll go ahead, we'll sort out the price later. Yeah. And then when, so you've done the work, but then they go and say, oh, that's part of the contract, or that's part of some. So you have to be so careful with these big contracts. And that's not just in construction, that's just across the board. Yeah, whether absolutely. You're in the food and drink industry or, whatever, you've got to understand the delivery sort of process and the customer journey and what you need to get paid on time.
And it's very easy, isn't it, for you to go from a situation where you're, your invoice misses a cut off, and before you know it, you've got an extra month before the cash comes in.
It is. And also making sure your invoices are in the system. So how do you check the invoices? Because if you're on, say, 45 days, 30, 45 days, 60 days, big companies want as much, credit as possible. And you've got to be very careful with that, because then they go and say, well, we didn't get that invoice. Or, hang on a minute, you supplied 3 parts of this, three things, and 2 of them we had to return. So we're not paying that invoice. So it's missed another month. Yet that was only 1% of the whole value of the invoice. You have to be very careful.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think we could probably talk about this all day, Graham.
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
And so I know, previous experience, again, we've been in a situation where, we've thought that we're doing everything absolutely by the book. The contract says we needed to do this, we're doing it. And yet, because the customer's suffering for other reasons, there's a pushback to you, the supplier.
That is right. If they're having problems and if they're losing money, they've got to try and they'll be under so much pressure, the staff, to find ways of getting that money back. Yeah.
So it's tricky, really. So what's the strategy, Graham, to address those risks?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing, for me is that, from when I've seen it, when we've worked it successfully, is the relationship with your key customers. Yeah. And that's at different levels. That's from the top to the bottom. So whoever you're doing, and that includes, so it's whoever's the decision makers all the way down, to who actually pays the bills, etc. So if you can have relationships at different levels, and that really will help you a lot. Don't forget that people move as well from, job to job. Also be very much a problem solver for them, because small business tends to be, I'd say it like speedboats against a big tanker. Now, if you can help and solve problems for your customer, but those people, and you can make them feel good or look good in their, in their boss's eyes, so you got to think about them. If you can make them look good, they will do anything for you. They will help you. They become reliant on you. Mm-hmm. So help them to achieve their objectives. Find out what drives them, what the issues are. Mm-hmm. Basically build long-term mutually benefit agreements. Sort of just it's all about people usually. Yeah. There's someone, and just make sure that works. Obviously monitor payment history and credit rating. I know a lot of businesses do it at the start of a contract, or sort of as you go through the start of the process. Sorry, but as you're going through, just keep monitoring.
Do you think people assume that everything's going to be fine? They're dealing with a big customer.
Yes, a lot of people do. They must have money. No, mm-hmm. no. You need someone to check the accounts. We've had one in the past where we've sent it on a LinkedIn Live, where we had the accounts looked okay, but when you actually looked at it, they didn't have cash. The cash was going down, and then they got problems. And luckily, with our help, because this company was after 90 days terms, with our help, basically the client decided not to go with that business, and that business went bust. I can't remember, it was 12, 18 months later. So you've got to be very careful.
Yeah.
And one of the key ones I'd say is, like I mentioned above, before, make sure you do follow their process and get the paperwork right.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, as well as building those relationships, what else can people do to address the risk of having one or two key customers?
Well, obviously, have time to look, or have someone that's looking for a new business. Mm-hmm. So the first thing I'd say is that if you're doing well with a key customer, whatever you do, people forget to get references, testimonials, referrals from big customers. Because if you're working for them and they say this is great and you can put it on your website, that helps and everything. So use their reputation, the work, to actually get other work. I would say definitely build a strong online presence. Mm-hmm. Invest in the marketing, the website, content, social media. Mm-hmm. Relevant directories that you need that's to do where your customer might try and find you. Yeah. Invest in sort of obviously the sales side as well. Research the markets. There may be a different market for your product or service as well. Leverage existing contacts. Mm-hmm. Customers. Look at partnering. A lot of people forget about partnering. Is there a business that's not competitive with you, but it looks for the same customer base? Can you partner with them? Consider where your potential customers will find you, and try and develop a marketing plan for it. Yeah. And look at whether there's anything else that you can offer, because sometimes your product or service is in a certain market that can be offered, like I said, in a different market. Yeah. So really find out what the market wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And in general terms, then, what will attract customers?
Well, like everybody wants the best quality for the cheapest price. Now there's some businesses realize actually if you're going to have quality that there are different price points, depends on so you have to find out what your customer wants. But really you want to make sure your service or product is of the right quality. Be very responsive. Excellent customer service. Be responsive. Personalized interactions. That's where the relationships come in place. Just go and look at what their problems are and try and solve them. That's going that extra mile in their eyes. Certainly keep, look at your pricing. Don't just jump to the next customer, because you've got to understand what it's going to cost you. So mm-hmm. really make sure you've got. I mean, we've said it before in many of these LinkedIn lives. Make sure you understand your numbers. Because you can go. It's a supply and volume basis. So you can go for volume, but you've got to make sure you know what you're doing. And as soon as you start to go for lower margin work, if it goes too low, you're at risk of your business not.
It's an interesting question, isn't it? With if you do have one or two key customers, chances are you are perhaps delivering on potentially on lower margins for that higher volume. So I guess perhaps you've got to take care not to just apply the same pricing basis to new, potentially smaller customers.
Yeah, that's a good point. Usually you find it depends on, if you look at it, if you're pricing something and say you're pricing something and your product, there's someone wants one of your product and then someone wants 1,000 of your product.
Yeah.
Obviously the one product on its own still costs a lot of time in actually the admin, so you should be looking and saying that price of one might have to be a lot higher than the price of 1,000. So volume type discounts.
Yeah.
But with that, you also got to know what if you're making money on it. So you've got to understand your cost base and understand your numbers to say, yes, I can do that, but that product there on its own is £50. If you want 100, it's £40. If you want 1,000, it's £30. But you've got to know where your cost is, because if your cost is £30, you don't sell it at 30. I know I'm telling you how to suck eggs, but a lot of people don't understand the actual profit and loss account. So you've got to break it down so you understand what your real true costs are per product, per service.
So that's the sort of pricing side of things, Graham. What about other factors that will attract in new business?
Well, yeah, if you're seen as unique, so that's very good. So focus on where your USPs are. What's your unique selling proposition?
Yeah.
Where are you different? So don't do your waffle. We give excellent customer service. You've got to prove these things now. People are not stupid that's looking for your type of products or services. People are they've got a lot of information from Google, and now with the new bots and that AI bots that like ChatGPT, with ChatGPT 4 coming out now, people can search and they know what they're looking for. So make sure it's actually what you're talking about. It's actually what look at your strengths against your competition.
Yeah.
Accreditations, especially in certain areas, looks it's great. Like with us, we're chartered accountants, so with that says we are trained in accountancy, because there's a lot of accountants that aren't. There's a lot that are. But we understand, because we've gone through the training. What about ISOs? Sort of your accreditations for that, or is there other accreditations you need to get on to certain bid lists?
Yeah.
So have a look at that.
Yeah.
One of the best ones, though, is social proof.
Yes.
So make sure on your website you've got maybe case studies, testimonials, reviews, and whatever you do, don't be afraid to ask for referrals from people that are using your know you, using your services or products, and basically then they may know someone else that is dying out for your company's sort of solutions.
Yeah, definitely. So what if business owners are in a position where they have got a lot of business placed with one or two key customers, what should they do now? What steps should they take?
Well, I think you've got to look at what the effect is on your business. So again, you need to understand your numbers. What happens if you lost that key customer? And how many? If you've got, let's just say you've got 5 customers, but they're all 20% of your business, you're in a better position than if you've got one customer that's 80% of your business. Now that may be great for the moment, but you've got to plan that what happens if. So diversify the customer base, basically. So work out what would you feel like? What would happen to your business if you lost that key customer? Where's the percentage? Some businesses would say 30%, some would say 20. A lot of financial, like if you I know with invoice discounting, because I've used that, businesses don't like your spread, where you've got a customer that is taking more than 20% of your business. They don't like it unless it's just for short term, but not for long term.
Yeah.
So diversify your customer base.
Yeah.
As we said, with the marketing and everything, develop a strong brand. Look at what other products and services you can look at, offer, and also where there's a different markets that you can go into. Make sure you've got strong cash flow. No business goes bust if they've got cash. Yeah. But a lot, they can be very profitable, but if you've got run out of cash, then you've got problems. Keep an eye on the competition. because they, what are they doing? Where are they going? Just, you want to be there before them if you can, but just look at it, because competition, suddenly someone comes up and disrupts the market.
Yeah.
But basically have a plan. If you're so reliant on a key customer, one or two key customers, have a plan of how you're going to cover the loss and what you're going to do to develop your business.
Yeah. Or you might say, actually, I'm happy with it, and if they go away, I'll shut down. And
yeah, that's it. Yeah, but you know.
Yes.
It may be that's it may be you're approaching retirement and think, well, if I haven't got that, but retirement or exit, but if I haven't got it, well, I'll sell it with a customer. Try and sell the business with a very key customer. But what happens if it goes? Well, I haven't got that, but I've built up my pension or property portfolio or whatever. It's really on what you want. Yeah.
And just coming back to our conversation a moment ago, Paul Goch has just commented about economical batch quantities. For me, the thing here is about pricing in a way that's appropriate to the customer, and just understanding that what's right for your big customer and what your new business mean. The way you need to price for new business might be slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example also that one of the companies I was involved with where we priced, and we had 3 different levels. Basically, they were pricing and they looked at their conversion ratio.
Yeah.
And they were pricing any contract from a few hundred, like 600, say, all the way up to $250,000.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was, when we looked at it, the 600, they were pricing exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Now, what we did, we upped the price on the 600. We put 50% on.
Yeah.
And we only lost a little bit of the work. And whereas the bigger work, we dropped the price because they were too expensive against the competition.
Yeah.
What happened? That business went from loss making to profit making.
Yeah.
So it is economic batch quantities is you've got to know your numbers first, Paul. Yes. You really have to. You've got to know what that batch costs you. And that includes the whole, like overhead or whatever. So you've got an idea, and there's a way of allocating these things, but you've got to know the spread.
Definitely.
You've got to know where your business, what really is, sorry, I'm waffling on a bit, what your costs are for that batch, and then you can see the margin, and then you've got to know where the competition lies.
Yeah.
So, I do. Another thing I've said to people and I've said to clients is sometimes look at, if there's the same as if there's a competitor or whatever, or there's a lot of very competitive market, find out somehow to try and do some sort of secret shopper exercise where you ring up, get someone to ring up, so they actually find out, sort of, you've got someone that you can ring up that business and get a comparable quote. That happens a lot in construction.
Definitely. So we've been talking about the risks and the issues around the loss of a key customer, or just dependence on a key customer. But are there any areas that we should be thinking about, Graham?
Yeah, like you said, you're talking about. I think it's like I said, it's look at markets. Look, markets. Be careful that there's so many things. If you're reliant on one or two, like I'd say markets. If you're in, like, if there's a certain market, and then suddenly someone comes in and changes it, it can totally, basically make you go bust. That's a big problem that was with farming, when they were so dependent on, market price with milk quotas, etc. It's happened where everybody knows about Blockbuster. They were in the market where they'd sell DVDs, but then Netflix comes along and totally blows the market out. So look at where you've got that, because markets, sometimes certain markets, very volatile, especially on very, I would say, the produce, perishable stock. So just be careful with that. Key employees is definitely one. Just be careful that, if you're so reliant on one or two employees, what happens if they go? You need to keep them, motivated, incentivized. Incentivized is not always money. It's just like respect, trust. How can you tie them in so that actually they want to be part of your business? If they're key to you, if they go, your business can suffer massively. And that goes on the same with suppliers. Make sure you've got more than one key supplier. If there's a component that you need and you only got it in one area, what happens to that if they suddenly say, no, I can't deliver that for 6 months, 12 months, or they go bust, or there's sanctions like what's happened in Russia, Ukraine? Goes the same with products. If you're relying, I said about blockbuster. So if you've got one product or service, have a look at, you've got to try and develop them. Otherwise, you're too reliant on it. And also technology. I've seen that with businesses. They rely on old systems and they haven't moved with the times. And those systems are still too paper-based. So have a look, and what happens if because they grow so much, they get too reliant on that, and then they can't change. The time to change is going to take ages. So if you're a small business, just be very careful. You're with a system like Xero or a similar system that actually can grow with you.
Yeah.
So you can add apps and things like that. It can grow with you, and and it's always been updated. Just because there's so many times I've seen it and gone there and say, I'll give you one example. There's a business that I've been involved with in the past that actually I would say they had 5 or 6 people that easily could have been replaced. No offense, I know, but there's 5 or 6 people because they were just producing paper all the time. And actually that business, that cost, which is, say nowadays 150,000, say maybe a bit more, that cost actually was just hitting into your bottom line.
Yep.
So just make sure you don't get too reliant on old technology, obsolete technology.
Definitely. So if your business is too dependent, or you're concerned how dependent you are on 1 or 2 key customers, and you'd like to have a one-to-one with Graham on that topic, pop us an email over to chatwithgraham@wessexcommercial.com and we'll set up a free, no obligation meeting for you. We'll see if Graham can help you identify how you're going to manage that risk. And next time, we're back in the middle of the month in May. So join us on Monday the 15th at 12:30. And our topic is going to be creating a sustainable business with recurring income. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there. And thanks everyone for joining us today. Thank you
very much. Take care.